A 2023 report by the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, reveals that contract staff make up 65% of the banking sector's workforce. In the oil and gas industry, contract employees earn 50% to 70% less than their full-time counterpart, despite handling equally demanding and sometimes riskier tasks. What's really going on here? To break it all down, I'm joined by Ifreke Brendan, an experienced HR professional with expertise in talent management, workplace culture, and employee engagement. She is passionate about building inclusive, high-performing teams. Welcome, Ifreke, to Business Insight. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did, Ifreke.
Yeah, there you go. So you've been in the HR sphere for a very long time, but from your own perspective, would you say contract staff are undervalued in Nigeria? And if they are, why is that the situation?
All right, thank you so much. So maybe undervalued is not the word. It's just that they find out that they drew the short stick, right, in the employment space, basically. And that is because they don't have enough laws. And even if these laws exist, enforcement is like very low. So there's really no little or no protection for them. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, but that's really a bit of an issue. But would you really say, okay, let's look at challenges per se. What are the biggest challenges these workers face daily? Because I have been in the banking sector before I joined broadcasting. I realized that back in the day we had we used to call them TOs, that's the transaction officers, you know, and they were either the tellers and those who receive money at the back end there. So most times they have like, they don't have like a structure as per go through the ranks of executive trainee to assistant banking officer to banking officer, just like they don't go through that ropes. Over time, what they could do after a while, they might just top up the salary, but they cannot really aspire to even be what's it called, EDs or AGMs, except they go back, you know, to school and maybe come back or something. So what are some of these challenges? I'm maybe just breaking it down what I saw in the banking industry.
Okay, so I think the number one challenge that contract workers face is job insecurity. Because, well, like you said, you've experienced it already, right? For permanent staff, even if you're going to let somebody go, there's like a mandatory notice period.
True.
But for the contract staff,
you could just let you go.
It doesn't really exist yet. You can just come the next morning and then hear that you've been let go of. And I think that is like the greatest challenge that they face, because when you don't know what tomorrow looks like on the job, there's a lot of apprehension. You don't know what to expect in the workplace. That's like a very great challenge. Then there's also the disparity in pay between contract staff and then the full-time employees of the organization.
Okay. Could it also be, I don't know, over time it used to be the HM, the BSc dichotomy? Because that used to be a case, I don't know if it still is right now, but that used to be a case in the banking sector, because if you are a polytechnic graduate, automatically you're not a full staff. You're usually outsourced. The only full staff they had back then in the banking industry were those with university degrees.
Okay, so, well, you said back then. So nowadays, right? Yeah, people that graduate with HND can also, you know, come in as full staff.
Okay.
But it depends on the value that you have to offer to the organization, because, I mean, every organization is looking out for their best interest, right? So even if you say you're HND, can you go through the recruitment process and come out of it successful?
Okay.
That is a question that we need to ask ourselves. So I don't think the HND, BSc, yes, it had a role to play, especially, you know, back in the days, but nowadays there's been a shift away from all of that. And organizations really are looking for people that can go through their recruitment processes and come in as, you know, full hires and, you know, provide value to the organization. Okay,
let's still talk about preference now, because from the report I read from the CIBN, is it about 60% or thereabout? But my concern is that, okay, they said 65% of the staff strength of the banking industry, contract staff. So why do companies prefer using contract staff? Is it as just to cut costs, or what? Because most times, I still have to retrace it to what I've experienced. You know, most of the times, they still do the bulk of the same job that the permanent staff do, even if not more.
So I think for organizations, it's really, I mean, it's a capitalist system, and businesses look out for themselves. and we can't fault them for that, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so going ahead to hire contract staffers against hiring full-time employees, there are benefits for the organization.
Okay.
So things around risk management, for instance, because the organization doesn't have to directly manage these employees. There's that outsourcing company that serves as the middleman that manages these employees, right? And sometimes it's also like reducing costs for them, and also it offers them more flexibility on like different roles. So for industries where they have like high alteration rates, where I mean, people come and go every now and then, you want to just have like an outsourcing company that provides these people when you need them, instead of having to go through the recruitment process from scratch all over again. So yes, the businesses actually, want to use contract staff because it is more beneficial to them, and you can't fault them for that.
No, we can't actually. But looking at it, would you say there are specific sectors where contract staff or contract staffing or outsourcing, abound? And are there specifics where some of these workers, feel the pinch? Really, most of the time they're actually the bottom of the barrel. For instance, sometime last year there was a protest. Telecom staff, were complaining that some companies would rather give the big jobs to expatriates, while those in Nigeria are taken as either contract staff, and they don't even have some of the specs and the benefit that they should be getting.
So I don't want to look at it from an industry perspective, right? Because I feel like every industry that has contract staff, they are practically facing the same things, right? So it's just that most of the time, those are the bottom of the barrel, like you called it, right? Those guys feel the brunt more because they are lower level roles, and even as a full-time staff in a lower level role, your compensation is, we all know how the economy is. Your compensation is something that you're barely making do with. Then at that lower level, as a contract employee, that means that you have like little or nothing. You have no job security. There's no assurance that there's even going to be growth on those roles, because I mean, like you already said, full-time employees are passed up on, put up on greater opportunities, and those are contract staff are passed up on some of these opportunities. So yeah, I don't want to look at it like this industry has it better or this industry has it harder. It's just, as a group, with contract staff, most of the time, they don't get the best out of organizations.
Okay, I think we have labor laws. So the question right now would be, are there some sort of legal framework or legal protections for this contract staffing? I don't know what the labor laws say concerning outsourcing and labor contract staffing. What do they say? Are there protection for contract staff? And if there are they seemingly effective?
So labor law, well, if you go online, you see labor law of 2004, but that document has been like there before I was even born, right? Yeah, so even if it's just a general coverage for people in employment, it doesn't break down that, okay, these are contract staff, these are full-time employees and all of that. Now that general cover that covers everybody in employment, as staff, employee, all of that, there's no enforcement, right? So what happens is that everybody knows that, okay, there are laws, but there's nobody really saying, okay, you didn't follow this law, what's the penalty for that? And so a lot of companies turn away from it, right? So fine, there are some companies that, because they want to maintain their brand image, they make sure that, okay, even if they are contract staff, they are treated properly. The outsourcing company is held accountable for that. But when you have one company like that, you have like a lot of other ones that, slip through the cracks and take advantage of the system because there's no enforcement for it. Okay,
I don't want to play the devil's advocate right now, but then let's talk about outsourcing. There have been reports, there have been reactions where these outsourcers or these firms, these middlemen who get this labor for organization tend to, for want of a better word to use, tend to exploit some of the people who come through them. Is that really the situation? In terms of percentages and all of that?
Yes, it is. Yes, we have some outsourcing companies that don't play by the book. But again, like I said, because there is no enforcement.
Okay.
I know that if we decide to go online today and check like how many outsourcing companies do we have in Nigeria, there's no actual figure for that because there's like so many coming up. There are some that, okay, they've built their brand over the years, they are trusted, they follow the rules, but there are some other ones that don't necessarily play by the rules, and those are the ones that you see that exploits contract workers within this space because, again, there is no enforcement for this law. So, I mean, and also because there's so much, job insecurity, the reality is that even if I, as a contract worker, say, I'm not taking this anymore, I'm leaving, in the next
someone else will just pick it up.
somebody else will pick up that job and move with it. So, what can contract worker do, really?
So they really can't do anything. But since we have laws, but they're not being implemented and all that, so how do we ensure regulation? How do we protect these contract workers, as it were?
So the first,
or how can they even speak for themselves? Can they speak for themselves?
They can, but it's going to be a long journey.
Okay.
Yes, but again, because I keep talking about enforcement, the first step really has to come from the government. Let's use this example of companies remitting payee on behalf of employees, because there's a heavy fine on that. You even find that it's the owner of organizations that are coming to meet the HR, the accountant, say, have we done payee for this month? Because they know what is at stake, right? So if the government is more intentional, companies will be the ones to say, okay, this outsourcing company that I'm using, are you following the regulations that have been put in place? Because they don't want to end up on the wrong side of the law. And then maybe for contract staff, I mean, it is what it is, and not that many of them will be able to actually speak out because, like I said, based on your contract, you can be let go of the next day and there's somebody else willing to take your job. So as much as you are in this situation and you are trying to make do with what is available, as an individual, you need to try to upskill. It's the sad reality, but for now, you need to try to upskill so that you could create more opportunities for yourself and better position yourself to take on more opportunities.
All right, fine. I'll still play the devil's advocate now, still because maybe I'm trying to bring morality and a human face to all of this. I know that most firms, because of the economic situation, they might just want to just cut costs so they can meet their bottom line and all of that. But we have cases where in my head I call it the basics, that employees should get HMO, some other benefits that should go with pension. Why shouldn't that just cut across all areas of workforce, be you a contractor or permanent staff? Basically, if you're working, you should enjoy some benefits, at least.
Yes. You say, why should we? Because there's nobody to enforce it, right?
Okay, so you're back to that again.
Exactly.
No enforcement. So basically, you could just practically be working all your life and no one really cares about you. That's the way I can put it.
Yes.
That's just a scenario.
Sadly, yes. So that's why you need, like I said, as a contract employee, you need to look out for yourself, right? So there are even sometimes where in organizations, some things happen that you're not very comfortable with, but you cannot even speak up because, I mean, like I said, no job security. You can come the next day and they're like, okay, you need to go. Or by the time you even come to work, they don't tell you need to go. You just come in and you find out that you can't log into your system anymore. These are things that have happened. But if that's the situation where you find yourself, you need to ask yourself, what can I do to be in a better position? So again, upskill.
There's some sort of fairness, and I don't know. Okay, I'll still go back to the banking days. Back then, I was in one of those commercial banks. I don't mention names, but then we had contract staff. I was in the marketing team. We had contract staff. We were given a group target. Which was good. Thank God, like going to 10 million. Then we had a group target, for the team. But then again, the contract staff, they also go marketing with us. We give ourselves our own targets. Not like as per figures, but they're like try and get it so you can see what you can do. At the end of the day, when the quarter has ended, there's what we call profitability bonus, which the full staff enjoy, and those people who also put in the works, they don't get anything. They just still get the stipends at the end of the month. Although what we do for human face again, we still share our profitability plus with our PB with the team. But this shouldn't be the case.
Yes. So let me talk about, because keep referring back to your time in the banking sector. We also know that there are banks in Nigeria that after working as a contract staff for some time, you're given the opportunity to take exams and be converted to full staff.
That's good.
Yes, it happens.
Okay.
So the truth of the matter is that while
back into upskilling again.
Yes. So while there are people that are, sticking to the laws and the rules already in place, there will still be a few bad eggs that will slip through the cracks because there's nobody plugging those holes that exist, right? So it's just pretty sad, that this is happening, but that is the reality, right? Banking sector, whatever sector it is, yes, contract staff, they are not as valued as full-time staff, right? But there's always opportunities for them. So maybe as a contract staff, if you're in a particular organization and you see that this is what is happening, you might want to gravitate towards organizations that give you that opportunity to convert, for instance. So if you know that Bank A, if you can work for 10 years as a contract staff, nothing happens. And you know that Bank B, when you work as a contract staff for a particular number of years, you can also make that move. So why don't you try to move from Bank A to Bank B so you can position yourself better? Because if you're in Bank A, there's nothing you can really do about it. You have to stick to what it is that is happening there.
Okay, that's a very good advice. So at least that they should know what's in the industry and try to upskill and upgrade and move, and not just sit in a corner and be so comfortable when things around them are changing. Thank you so much, Ifreke, for your time, for breaking all of this down and at least giving some people hope that there is hope even in their contract staffing. We do appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's the size of the show for today. We must say a big thank you to all of you who have sat back to watch, and of course my guest who has been grateful, who has been a very wonderful guest and breaking down all of these issues and providing insight for those who actually need it. That's our show for today. My name is Justin Akademi. See you again next time. Bye for now.